Want to pivot into talking about CoStar, which I am sort of newly fascinated by lately. I mean, I've been following it kind of for a while just because they're sort of a very interesting company. So what CoStar does is they started off as real estate data. They have large news teams, and they mostly do commercial real estate data. But over the past few years, they've bought apartments.com. They own LoopNet, which is sort of the default kind of Zillow of commercial. And they're making some other big acquisitions that are really interesting. And the biggest one that came out recently was that they're buying HomeSnap. So I'm not sure how many people are familiar with HomeSnap, but it kind of started off as like a Shazam for real estate, where you were able to like take a picture of the house and then learn more about it. But as HomeSnap grew as a privately traded company, it started to make deals with all of the multiple listing services, the MLSs in different places. And so now it's used by hundreds of thousands of agents. And so for CoStar to get into the residential space, I think is really, really interesting. Inman News has been covering it a lot this week. They had an interview with the CEO of CoStar, Andy Florence, because I think they might be really trying to take aim at Zillow's rulership of residential real estate.
I agree with that. Well, they're definitely trying to be a competitor. Whether Zillow should worry about it or not is a different matter.
True.
Here's an interesting fact and why I think Zillow doesn't have a whole lot to worry about. When you're starting your home search, what do you think is the number one term typed into Google?
I don't know. I would assume home for sale.
It's Zillow.
Well, there you go.
Zillow has
it is a verb now.
Zillow has more Google searches per month than the term real estate. That's a pretty impressive brand recognition.
Yes.
Zillow has over 197 million unique users per month. It's the brand when it comes to the premier agent service. When you're looking for a home, it's just kind of synonymous with residential real estate in America at this point. Now, having said that, there is room for everybody here. Zillow has estimated that its premier agent market, meaning the agent services, is an $18 billion annual market. In 2019, the revenue they got from that was less than $1 billion. So they have about 5% of their addressable market. So there's room for others to grow right alongside Zillow. And it's worth mentioning that Zillow isn't focusing on this area of the business really that much anymore. They're considering that the mature part of their business and are focusing on Zillow Offers, the iBuying business, or the homes division, as they call it in their financial statement. So they consider that kind of they've referred to it as their legacy business, but it's not that big of a market share when it comes to what they think they could get from agents. Agents using all of these services to list homes and stuff like that. Now, if you're a realtor, you can't not be on Zillow these days. You just can't. But no, CoStar is definitely making moves, and I don't know. Do you agree with me that Zillow doesn't have that much to worry about?
Well, here's the thing that I find really interesting. This is going to be sort of like data nerd real estate stuff. But so all of the information comes from the MLSs, right? So like when I worked at realtor.com, we had agreements with like 800 MLSs. And so CoStar HomeSnap has been serving these MLSs. I'm wondering if there's a way that the MLSs might try to get out of their relationships with Zillow. And if there is a way for CoStar to kind of have control over the actual sources of data. That's the thing that kind of makes me wonder if there is a way that they could get power over that. And that's the other thing that really is fascinating to me about residential real estate data, is that it is not coming from one source. So it's coming from all of these hundreds of MLSs. And over time, we're starting to see more of them kind of consolidate, because some of them can be like really small. They can have like a couple hundred agents. And the other problem is that they all put the data in slightly differently, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but then you have these little disagreements over like what makes a 3/4 bath versus a half bath, and it's all entered in differently. So when it's all entered in differently, it's really hard for it to be updated fast and efficiently and accurately. And that's been a problem in the real estate industry for years. There's a couple of different groups that have tried to put together data standards. And so what HomeSnap was actually the public face for something called the Broker Public Portal. So the Broker Public Portal has been this kind of idea to create not necessarily a national MLS, but something kind of close to it, where everybody, where all of the different MLSs had the same data standards, put all of the information in the same way, and a lot of the real estate companies that were part of it sort of saw it as a way to take back control from Zillow. But the thing is that it never quite launched for whatever reason. It never it never became a thing that people ended up using. It never became a thing that the public ended up using. And it started to seem like, it was just impossible that Zillow would just always have that kind of power. And a lot of people in the real estate industry kind of resent the fact that Zillow kind of came in from the outside and managed to have all of that power. So it's really interesting to me that CoStar has made this move. And I mean, we've seen what they've done with apartment listings with apartments.com, but it's a very different type of industry versus residential real estate.
Yeah, and like I said, they're the biggest differentiator between them and Zillow as a competitor is Zillow's homes division. If Zillow's iBuying ends up being successful, they don't care how much market share CoStar takes in their legacy business. Right, as of yet, they haven't figured out how to make it profitable. By the way, Zillow bought and sold over 2,300 homes in one quarter this year. They lost an average of $4,500 per home fixing and flipping that house. Mm-hmm. So they haven't figured out how to scale this yet, but this is a $2 trillion market, not an $18 billion one like their premier agent business. So that's where they're seeing, dollar signs in their eyes in that $2 trillion market. And CoStar a lot better than I do. I don't believe they're planning on doing any type of iBuying anytime soon.
No. Their goal always is to control data as much as possible. And in the past, they've been famously litigious, suing a variety of other companies. They basically sued Xceligent out of business. I mean, so once they get data, they kind of throw up a moat around it, and they really go after anyone who uses their data. They've accused other companies of stealing their data. So that's one of the things I find really interesting about this grab.